Anishima, ya chachamo, Edeba, and other Ijuma so I would see the measure self like over commenting. Now, I share my videos near a day among Yanitia, a prophet, I just say Ghana for in himself, no dear Okasa or prophesy and a ma a MPP, a prophet Kusi Boateng, and I just say, kind of more semi. I would say I Ghana had you obia any say about the prophecy, dear Okan, a bem, the Okan, and Bemina. Ebi ekoso ewo omomo Ghana na waba monte so edi nsem bi abetuja a chese Ghana fo ko piem ewo social media ye Facebook say ye TikTok say ye YouTube say ye X ne crowd ya na chese enya asem ketwa ai wo ho aye butubutu amanfo bi mo omo be di na tem di na tem omo support ne support ne ewo nsem bi a wa be ka ho asem ni na ene say the dangerous man na die nti ena ama papa yi aba monte so abeka the dangerous man die nti ena bema obi exfre obi the dangerous man ebusia emunchemu enyina ewo ye papa prophet Kusi Boateng enti me se wombre ene wada enti me so be camel wa nkasa wakoti na nudi nsema obi.
There's a clear difference between talent, skill, and grace. Talent is not the same as grace. Skill is not the same as grace. So even as we activated the power of grace, a lot of you thought that you were going to be more skillful. A lot of you thought that you were going to be more talented. But grace is much more loaded than talent and skill. The dictionary definition for talent is a natural aptitude or skill. To simplify it, when we talk about talent, it is something very natural that exhibits something of natural value, of natural essence, and of natural significance. When we talk about skill, it is the ability to do something very well naturally. That is skill. Your ability to naturally do something very, very well. Some of you, when we talk about education, you are so talented to an extent that you don't have to learn the way I learn to be able to retain the information I retain. Because you are so talented to an extent that you don't need to learn as much I do, and yet you are able to come out with better grades than I have. So you learn to produce. When we talk about skill, it may be natural, it may be that you never learned it, but you are so skillful. Example, a lot of you are so skillful to the extent that nobody taught you how to do makeup. You never went to a makeup school, but you were able to do makeup so well to an extent that you can turn an old lady into a young lady. That is talent. That is skill. But I came to tell you today to talk about grace. That beauty is vain and charm is deceitful. Let me simplify it. This is talent and this is grace. Somebody can be so talented to an extent that he changes your eyes from an African eye into a Chinese eye by reason of makeup. Somebody can turn a small lip to become a big lip like my lip, all because of makeup pencils. You can change the weight of the lip. And so somebody is so gifted with makeup, you've made up so well, and you are walking majestically into church. You are coming with your talent and with your skill, but there is somebody that cannot afford the makeup, but he carries what we call grace. And so when both of you meet, you realize that beauty is vain and charm is deceitful. He may be walking in the aisle saying I do, and with all your makeup you might not say I do. I pray that you are not just going to be skillful, you are not just going to be talented, but you are going to be a man or a woman of grace. I wish I came all by myself. Tell your neighbor, grace. And what is the meaning of grace? It is the supernatural ability to do natural things with ease. When we talk about grace, grace is not a talent, because talents are natural. They are naturally made, naturally exhibited, and naturally functionable. When we talk about skill, it is something that is developed physically, naturally, but then talent cannot intrude grace. The natural cannot overcome the supernatural. So when we talk about talent and we talk about skills, we are talking about the natural. We are confining ourselves to the natural. But when we talk about grace, we are jumping over the wall of the natural into the supernatural. I pray that in this year of activated grace, you shall go beyond talent, go beyond skill, and find yourself in the arena of grace, which is the supernatural. I don't think I have so much to talk to you about when it has to be with grace. When we talk about skill or we talk about talent, some people are born with skills, some are born with talents. So what I mean is that there are people that even don't learn how to play the organ, but some way, somehow, it was embedded within their DNA. So when they sit behind the organ, they are so skillful with the organ. But I've seen a lot of people that are skillful with the organ. But when grace is not attached to your skill then becomes local. Your skill then ends up in your classroom. But then when grace is attached to your skill, that is when the world begins to see you. That is when your locality begins to see you. I pray that you shall not just be a man or a woman of skill, but you shall be a man and a woman of grace. Shout, grace activated. I think you can do better than that. Shout it. You can do better than that. Shout it. So skill is for the natural. Skill gets natural result. But grace is for the supernatural. Grace gets supernatural access into getting natural results. When we talk about grace and we talk about skill, this is how it is. Skills are developed naturally, and skills can be learnt. Somebody may be born with a skill, but he has the ability to teach another man the same skill that he learns. That is why somebody will have been very smart in class into becoming a medical doctor, but then with a skill, he teaches you as a consultant so that you can also become a doctor like he is. Skill can be taught, talent can be taught, but grace is given. So grace is a supernatural force, a supernatural enablement to be able to accomplish natural things with ease. Let's open our Bibles to the book of 2 Corinthians, chapter 9, verse 8. The most dangerous man is not a skillful man, but the most dangerous man is the man of grace. The most dangerous man is not the talented man, but the most dangerous man is the man that has been graced by God. 2 Corinthians 9, 8.
2 Corinthians chapter 9, verse 8. And God is able to make all things, all grace abound toward you.
So watch this. God is able to make all grace. If the Bible you are holding is yours, underline all grace. All grace. As I begin to step into the journey of grace with you, you realize that there is not a singular grace. You realize that there are not just two graces there, but there are multiple forms of grace. So the writer of the book of Corinthians, which of course is Paul, is telling us that grace is not one. He is telling that grace is more than two. He's saying that there are multiple kinds of grace, but God is able to make all the grace, which means that God collects every single grace. God puts them all together. I pray that by the end of my journey with you, if there is another grace, God will add it to another grace and add it to another grace, that you shall be the full complement of the full grace of God. I don't think you are understanding what I'm talking about. He said God is able to make all grace abound towards you. That you always having all sufficiency in all things may abound to every good work. Let's go to the meaning of all. All is used to refer to the whole quantity or extent of a particular group or thing. Which means that when we say all, it means that there are multiplicities. There are different kinds. It should be more than one or two. I'll be talking about all grace.